The nurse collapsed first. Her body hit the floor hard. Then the respiratory therapist went down. One by one, the medical staff started dropping. Not from exhaustion, not from stress, from poison. And the source was lying right there on the gurney. A dying woman named Gloria Ramirez. Her body was releasing something into the air. Something invisible. Something deadly. This is the story of the toxic lady. The woman who turned an emergency room into a crime scene. And to this day, nobody knows exactly what happened. February 19th, 1994. Riverside, California. Gloria Ramirez was 31 years old. She had cervical cancer. Stage 4. She was a mother. She was a fighter. And on that night, she was dying. Her heart was racing out of control. Her blood pressure was crashing. Her family called 911. The paramedics arrived at her home in Riverside. They found Gloria barely conscious. Her breathing was shallow and irregular. They loaded her into the ambulance. Lights and sirens all the way to Riverside General Hospital. She arrived at the emergency room at 8:15 p.m. The staff was ready. Trauma Bay Number 1. A full team of doctors and nurses. Nobody knew they were walking into a disaster. Gloria was rolled into the trauma room. Her condition was critical. The team moved fast. They started cutting off her clothes. They needed for access immediately. One nurse noticed something strange. Gloria's skin looked oily. It had a weird sheen to it, almost like she was covered in a thin layer of grease. But there was no time to think about it. They were losing her. The doctor ordered sedation. A nurse drew blood from Gloria's arm. And that's when things got weird. The nurse, Susan Kane, noticed something about the blood. It smelled strange, like ammonia mixed with garlic. A sharp chemical smell that burned her nose. She handed the vial to another nurse, Julie Gorchinsky. Julie held the blood up to the light. She saw something impossible. Tiny particles floating in the blood, like crystalline shards, suspended in the liquid. She opened a vial to get a better look. The smell hit her like a wall. Her eyes started burning. Her throat tightened. She felt dizzy. She tried to speak, but her words came out slurred. Then her legs gave out. Susan Kane caught her before she hit the floor. But Susan was feeling it too. The room was spinning. Her vision was blurring. She stumbled backward and collapsed. Now 2 nurses were down. The respiratory therapist, Maureen Welch, rushed over to help. She took one breath near Gloria's body. Her lungs seized up. She couldn't breathe. Her face turned pale. She dropped to her knees. The doctor in charge, Dr. Umberto Ochoa, made a decision. Evacuate the trauma room. Now, he ordered everyone out. Gloria was moved to an isolation room. Only a skeleton crew stayed with her. They wore masks and gloves. But it didn't matter. Gloria's heart stopped at 8:50 p.m., 35 minutes after she arrived. They tried to revive her. Chest compressions, defibrillator shocks. Nothing worked. Gloria Ramirez was pronounced dead at 8:50 p.m., but the nightmare was just beginning. Outside the trauma room, chaos erupted. 23 staff members reported feeling sick. 5 were hospitalized. The symptoms were terrifying. Difficulty breathing, nausea and vomiting, muscle spasms, temporary paralysis. One nurse couldn't move her legs for weeks. Another developed liver damage. Julie Gorchinsky, the nurse who opened the blood vial, spent 2 weeks in intensive care. She developed hepatitis. Her lungs were damaged. She had bone necrosis in her knees. The bone tissue was literally dying, all for being near Gloria Ramirez for less than 2 minutes. The hospital went into lockdown. A hazmat team was called in. They sealed off the emergency room. They treated it like a chemical spill. Gloria's body was different too. The coroner's team was terrified to touch it. They waited hours before moving her. When they finally did, they wore full hazmat suits. They placed her body in a sealed container, then another sealed container, double containment, like she was radioactive waste. The autopsy was scheduled, but the pathologists refused to do it normally. They performed it in a special room, surrounded by fans and ventilation systems, wearing military-grade protective equipment. They had never seen anything like this. A human body that poisoned other humans just by existing. What was Gloria Ramirez? What had she become? The authorities had 3 main theories. Theory 1. Mass hysteria. Some officials claimed it was all psychological. One person got sick and panic spread, a chain reaction of fear. But this theory had problems. 5 people were hospitalized. Lab tests showed real chemical exposure, real organ damage. Mass hysteria doesn't cause liver failure. Theory 2. Illegal drug lab contamination. Investigators wondered if Gloria had been near a meth lab. Maybe toxic chemicals soaked into her skin. They tested for everything. Methamphetamine precursors, industrial solvents, heavy metals. They found nothing. Theory 3. DMSO and oxygen. This is where it gets really dark. DMSO stands for dimethyl sulfoxide. It's a solvent. Some people use it as a home remedy for pain. You rub it on your skin. It's not FDA approved, but it's not illegal. Some cancer patients used it in the 1990s. Here's what might have happened. Gloria may have been using DMSO gel for her cancer pain. DMSO absorbs through skin very easily. It enters the bloodstream fast. Now here's the scary part. When DMSO mixes with oxygen in the blood, it could transform. It could become DMSO2, dimethyl sulfone, still relatively harmless. But under certain conditions, it could transform again into DMSO4, dimethyl sulfate. This is a poison, a serious industrial poison, extremely toxic, causes all the symptoms the staff experienced: breathing problems, organ damage, chemical burns. The theory goes like this. Gloria's body was in shock. Her cells were dying. Oxygen was flooding her system from the emergency treatments. The DMSO in her blood was crystallizing, turning into DMSO4. When the nurses drew her blood, they released the gas. When they opened the vial, concentrated poison filled the air. The trauma room became a gas chamber, and Gloria's body was the source. But here's the problem. This has never been proven. The levels of DMSO4 needed would be astronomical. Some chemists say it's impossible. Others say it's unlikely, but not impossible. Not everyone believes the DMSO theory. Some think the hospital was hiding something. Maybe they used an experimental cleaning chemical. Maybe there was a gas leak. Maybe they made a mistake and blamed Gloria. The staff who got sick felt abandoned. The hospital claimed mass hysteria. Insurance companies refused to pay medical bills. Julie Gorchinsky sued. She argued that real toxins caused real damage. The case was settled out of court. The details remain sealed. To this day, the hospital denies any wrongdoing. To this day, they maintain it was mass psychogenic illness. But the nurses who were there know what they felt. They know what they breathed, and they know it wasn't in their heads. Gloria's body became evidence. It was kept in a sealed container for weeks. When they finally released it to her family, there was a problem. Tissue samples were missing. The heart was missing. Some organs had been removed without explanation. The family demanded answers. They got none. Gloria was buried in a sealed casket. Even in death, she was treated like a biohazard. Her family said she deserved better. She was a mother. She was a person, not a contamination risk. The autopsy report listed cause of death as heart failure due to kidney failure due to cancer. Nothing about toxic fumes. Nothing about poison blood. The official report said the incident was mass hysteria. Case closed. But it's not closed. Not really. Why did Gloria's blood smell like ammonia and garlic? Why were there crystals floating in her blood? Why did 5 healthy medical professionals end up in the hospital? Why did one nurse develop bone necrosis? Why was the emergency room sealed like a crime scene? If it was mass hysteria, why did the hazmat team confirm chemical exposure? If it was DMSO4, why has this never happened before or since? Was Gloria using DMSO gel? Her family says they don't know. Her medical records don't mention it. But in 1994, not everyone told their doctors about home remedies, especially not cancer patients trying everything to survive. Maybe Gloria was experimenting. Maybe she was desperate. Maybe she created a chemical reaction that science has never seen before. Or maybe something else happened that night. Something the hospital doesn't want us to know. Gloria Ramirez became known as the Toxic Lady. Her case has been studied in medical schools. Toxicology textbooks mention her, but there's still no definitive answer. The nurses who survived carry the scars. physical and emotional. They were doing their jobs. They were trying to save a life, and they were poisoned for it. Julie Gorchinsky never fully recovered. She left nursing. The trauma stayed with her forever. Other staff members quit medicine entirely. The Riverside General Hospital emergency room was renovated. New ventilation systems, new safety protocols, but the fear remained. What if it happens again? What if the next patient who rolls through those doors is toxic? What if saving a life means risking your own in ways you can't predict? Here's what we know for certain. Gloria Ramirez came to the hospital dying. She needed help. The staff tried to save her. Something in or on her body made people sick. Real sick. Measurable chemical exposure. Organ damage that lasted years. Beyond that, it's all theories. The most likely explanation is the DMSO-4 theory. A perfect storm of home remedies, medical crisis, and chemistry gone wrong. But we'll never know for sure. The tissue samples that could prove it are gone. The evidence is buried. The case is officially closed. But the questions remain. Gloria Ramirez died on February 19, 1994. She was 31 years old. She was a mother fighting cancer. And in her final moments, her body became a mystery. A mystery that poisoned an entire emergency room. A mystery that remains unsolved to this day. The next time you visit a hospital, look around. Look at the nurses and doctors. They face danger every single day. Infections, diseases, violence, and sometimes things we can't even explain. They show up anyway. They try to save lives anyway, even when those lives might kill them. Gloria Ramirez didn't mean to hurt anyone. She was the victim. But her case reminds us that medicine is still full of mysteries, that the human body can do things we don't understand, and that sometimes trying to save a life means risking everything.